Hey guys, welcome to Teamfight Talkshow. That's right, we're back again for another episode. DoA here with Frodan, as always, and today we have a returning guest. I believe, I haven't done all the episodes of this, but I believe our first returning guest in MismatchedSocks. Is that right? I know you've been on the show before, but are you the first person to be on the show twice?
Well, I mean, I think only the hosts can answer that, but
Yes.
I believe so.
I've been on the show more than twice, DoA.
You know.
Yes.
All right. Congratulations then, Ms.
I'm honored.
Not only that.
Yes.
Not only on being on our show, mostly, oh, yeah, there we go. Mostly for being on the show. You know, that's what we're mostly congratulating you for as we turn you up a little bit. And, but also a little bit, I suppose, on making it to the global championships for TFT set 3, deserving a little bit of congratulations there.
Oh.
It was a long, hard road, but you made it. What did you think about your performance in the tournament? We'll just start off with that, with a couple of questions with that. How did you think the weekend went for you? It was a lot of twos, obviously, but how did those twos go? Were there some high twos, some low twos?
I mean, coming to the tournament, well, I mean, I expected to just take the month off from playing TFT. I didn't really think I had the highest chance of making it. I thought it was slightly above average. I didn't think I was going to absolutely crush the tournament. And that's kind of what happened. So it was a little bit surprise to me.
Why didn't you do it? Did you think you just weren't prepared as much as you wanted to be, or?
Well, I mean, in the past, I've held like rank 1, rank 2 on the ladder for like fucking months, right? It's literally 2 months of holding rank 1, rank 2. And then coming to this tournament, I was hard stuck rank like 50 and like rank 45. So you can see why my confidence was a little bit not as confident as I usually am. But I mean, it turns out that my practice absolutely paid off. The way I practiced was actually super crucial to win this tournament. So overall, I think it went super, super well. I'm really, really happy with everything.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I mean, it was certainly a pretty epic performance. I have to backtrack a little bit because I didn't actually even ask Frodan how he's doing today. How are you doing, man? You said you made a breakthrough in your own play as well when we were talking before the show began?
Yeah, I've been, just trying to play games in my free time whenever I have like a free half an hour, an hour of work. And I feel like I've been studying climbing. I really like the current meta. I think this might be the best meta we've had in TFT, period. And I think it's just like a very interesting set of decisions within each tree. And, maybe I'm biased because I'm performing well. I'm actually climbing within Masters now. I gained like 200 LP in the past like day and a half in particular.
Wow.
So I've been really enjoying it a lot. And I was kind of like worried, like if the new patch ends up changing stuff, because sometimes they're like, oh, it's a micro patch, but then they end up restricting the amount of diversity because they're trying to likely buff stuff or lightly nerf things. And it never always goes as planned. But so far, the patch has been great.
All right. We'll talk about that patch in just a moment. But first, our first topic of the day that we'll touch on really quickly is the TFT roadmap that was unleashed upon the internet a little bit ago. So obviously we have the Galaxies World Championship coming up in September. Everybody knows the set 4 launch is coming out. But I like that we have a bit of an idea about what's coming up, and they mentioned in the past that they wanted to sort of move things to about 2 sets a year, where each set has sort of like a big mid-set patch that shakes things up a lot, like 3.5 does. And I love that cycle of things. I love that you kind of get to stick with a patch or a set long enough to really dig into it, but it also gets this big revamp halfway through. That seems like a great way to do it to me. And then down at the bottom, I think, is probably the part that most people are interested in, which are things like the new mode, improved arenas. I'm not quite sure what that entails, what constitutes an improved arena. Tournament API, which is going to be great because being able to get all that data out and in front of people during a broadcast is going to be vital. And spectator mode, we'll have it eventually, guys, but it's on the roadmap, so we'll get there at some point. But comments, Socks, we'll send it over to you first. Comments on the roadmap going forward here.
I mean, the thing I'm most excited for is definitely spectator mode, right? So then you don't have to stream your tournaments. Essentially, you can have open qualifiers without every single person streaming, and you can still cast it. So that's pretty exciting. That's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Dan, what do you think?
Definitely, especially for us, DoA, having the casters in the game as well is just like really big. So that way we can understand the best tournament in terms of presentation has been GiantSlayer historically. But I do want to give a shout out to the Cloud9 production crew for the Nebula qualifiers, because they actually gave DoA and I a switch to go to a player's perspective if we just hit a button. And they said, you can be the one controlling the player perspective. And that felt so good, because it felt like I was able to talk and like understand and answer questions immediately, because I had that control. I also have to be careful, because with that power is really abusable. If I keep, I'm kind of like, StarCraft or like Frantic. I'm like switching really quick, pressing R and Q and like rotating between POVs really fast. That's a poor spectating experience. But as a caster, I think that's really valuable to be able to do, to get a quick snapshot of what's happening around the lobby. So like that kind of stuff is really good, both for the players and the casters and the viewers. It's so sorely needed for any kind of tournament scene. The one thing is, though, it doesn't seem like they have a timeline for it, because they were talking about how now that they've launched mobile, now they got set forward in the pipeline, now that they're working on all this stuff, it feels like now they've begun working on spectator mode in some way, and that feels like it's just soon. We're not sure when it's going to come. Maybe it comes at the end of next year, which we wonder, is that going to be soon enough?
Well, I mean, I feel like a month ago is not even soon enough for when we really needed spectator mode, honestly. And I think it really speaks to the TFT community, and especially all the tournament organizers that have been putting events on over the months, to just how much effort goes into actually putting on a TFT broadcast. It's so difficult to aggregate that many streams, make sure all the players are streaming, all that kind of stuff. So I think a ton of credit is deserved by all of the production teams, by GiantSlayer, C9, TL, all the organizers that have put on tournaments this year, because it's really hard right now. And it'll be nice when we're in spectator mode. And for us, like, I'm usually against casters being the observers, but TFT is an exception to that, because that's a situation where I would love to like know who we were talking about at the moment, but also be able to, on my own monitor outside of the broadcast, be able to quick swap to somebody else's board to just double check on something and then go back, because that helps inform the narrative, right? And like as casters, that's kind of what we're most about when it comes to, the broadcast, is telling the stories of the players and the stories of what's going on in the game. So spectator mode will be great. I gotta say though, honestly, I'm like equally excited by the tournament API part of it. Because being able to draw real-time stats, or at least post-game stats quickly and throw them into graphics, is going to be so helpful in terms of both like practicing. I'm sure like Socks, you can probably attest to like how useful it would be to be able to like look at your games and see what like your average gold was at like round 4-1 usually, or that's a roll down term, but like track your own gameplay a little bit better. Like the API is going to help players a lot, I think, too.
I really want to know how many Banebro games I've actually played in the last. It's very crucial, actually.
20 out of 20.
Or like, it's not 20 out of 20. It's doomed.
On average, how many when do you hit your Yi 3, or like how many games do you perform well in if you don't hit Yi 3, and like there's a lot of like interesting statistics of your own gameplay that you can look at, and then we can use that too, for tournaments and things like that for broadcasts. So yeah, I think it's one thing that, like, if you've been a League of Legends fan for a long time, like a lot of us have, and we'll move on to the patch in just a moment, but if you've been a League fan for a long time, you've heard about the spaghetti code, right? Where League was kind of built from the ground up, and it's kind of like it's sort of like you've got this like shining modern skyscraper, but the foundations are like these archaic like ruins from a bygone technological era. So every once in a while you have to descend into those ruins to sort of like fix something in the skyscraper, and that's kind of where we're at as far as like implementing some of these things. Because if you dive into the code in the League of Legends client, I have been told many times, and they've said publicly, that it is a foreboding place. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why a lot of this has taken so long to emerge. But moving on, let's talk about patch day.
We're moving on. There's still so much to talk about on the roadmap.
Do you want to look? Our graphic moved on. Shouldn't we move on? Do you want to? You can keep talking if you want to. We can extend this.
I feel like that roadmap is actually like one of the most important conversations that's happening.
Sure.
Because we haven't talked about step 4 really, which is they're kind of teased the theme of it. We haven't talked about the fact that they want to launch a new game mode within TFT as well, which is also particularly interesting. And I think that like a lot of people who watch our podcast might be like really intent on like immediately asking Socks on like how to gain LP right now. But if you look at the broader scope, like what keeps TFT a really successful game and consequently a really thriving competitive scene is just having a huge player base. Because quite frankly, if we keep catering to the 0.01% who grind TFT and sweat for the LP, they're just going to average a 50% top 4 rate at that point, because you're only going to like basically just gain edge. And you can't gain edge over like other players at that point. You want a higher player base count so that way you can excel over others. And so having TFT grow from a casual perspective is really important for competitive players, even though I think a lot of times they feel like they're at odds. And I think new game modes and like the set 4 launch hype and everything like that is really important. And I think we don't know exactly what the new game mode is. People are theory crafting like 2v2 mode or some kind of like really interesting thing. But I'm really excited for that. And I think that might be one of the most important things that they announced, which is that they're invested in TFT long enough to develop it beyond its core gameplay loop. And I think that's a really good thing. That was one of the most exciting things for me personally when I saw this road.
What kind of new game mode would you like to see, Socks?
I mean, what Frodan said really clicked with me, right? Just any team-based game mode. Usually, you really want to, I don't know, something about having a team makes it feel more personal than just having like your own experience. You can like bond with your teammates. I don't know, something like that.
You can blame them.
You can blame them. You can definitely.
That's right.
First comes to worst, the true benefit of any team game.
We don't have enough variants, so why not have random teammates?
There you go. Yeah.
People are saying that doesn't having a team make the variance lower? So like if you
does. I'm saying who you match with though. If you like queue like so, if there's like solo queue and you match with a teammate, that would be kind of
depends on how they implement it too. Like if you can share items or something like that, then yeah, that would definitely lower variance because you could more consistently build what you're wanting to build and all that. So we'll see. I don't know. I think it seems like a team mode is the most logical thing that they would put in the game, but who knows? You know, maybe they'll come up with something totally wild and interesting.
I mean, now that you say it, I want to see like gold funneling and item funneling. It's like in League of Legends how like Tarek E, you just funnel the Master E, so he has double the farm, double the items.
Yep.
Imagine having like it's a 4v4 and you funnel all your gold onto one guy.
There's like a maybe there's like a Fall Guys like APM thing going on the side where like someone else your teammate controls like a little legend, but they can go to other people's boards and steal their items, and like the other little legend has to stop them.
Yeah.
This guy can
Have you guys played Dota Underlords at all? They have a 2v2 mode.
I haven't played that mode.
I haven't played that mode, but I used to play Dota Underlords.
I kind of stopped playing it once I started playing TFT. It's pretty much.
They have a really fun 2v2 mode, and I would argue that was probably the best thing they've done in that game. But I've only watched people play it. I've never played it myself. So if they have inspiration from it, I think it was really well received. It's just that, like, you know, the Underlords community, there's a lot of things you can talk about it, but at the end of the day, TFT reigns supreme over that. And it's like, I do think that if they simply like borrow a lot of the ideas from it, it'd probably be successful too. Either way, the new game mode, like I was trying to say, is one of the more exciting things. I think a lot of TFT fans should be very excited for it, for the idea of new content, but also because it shows that Riot's serious about TFT long term.
Right. And I think it's easy when we're in like our like esports bubble to think that everything should be about esports as far as like the development side of a game goes. And in a perfect world, that's the way it would be. But in reality, there's not as many people into the esports side of things that are into just the game itself. So supporting the player base that is larger, which is just the casual players, is arguably at the end of the day more important than supporting the esports side. And you can't ignore the esports side, but you can definitely tell why the priority would shift away from that a little bit from time to time, which kills me to say, but logically it makes sense. I'm just curious, what do these improved arenas mean?
Yeah, I don't know what that
new
means.
arenas. What are improved arenas? We have to talk about this because it's an interesting way to word that, because the arena doesn't really play into the gameplay that much, except for when you could run away and like take a sneaky fourth because the damage would take longer to get to you, but they took that out. So how do they improve arenas at this point?
I would say... Oh, go ahead, Socks.
Oh, no, it's going to be a joke. So you have a top level board and a bottom level board.
Oh.
You put pieces on the top level board or the bottom level board. It's kind of like Gwent, right? So then you're
like a top row and a bottom row,
like 4D chess from Star Trek.
Now we can finally
literally 3D
play.
chess.
Yeah, literally 2D chess.
There you go.
I would probably say the improved arena might be something like what they do in Hearthstone, which is actionable things that you can do on the board. That would be fun. Like you can like destroy the laser beam and like shoot your opponent's board or something.
That's true. Yeah, BM your opponents by like wrecking part of their board. That'd be neat. I'd be down. All right, let's move on to patch notes.
Sorry to derail you from the patch notes.
Okay.
I want to talk.
No, that's
the graphic, but
that's fine. There's not a ton to talk about with the patch notes anyway. Binary Star is out. We'll talk about the Galaxies real quick. First, Binary Star is out. Makes sense. It just kind of took away from something. I don't feel like it really enabled any new things per se. So I don't really mind seeing. I didn't mind playing that Galaxy, but I don't mind seeing it going away either. New Galaxy, Manatee's Delight. Have either of you guys gotten to play games on this yet? I have not actually. I have not hit this game yet.
I have actually. I have.
All right. What's it like?
It's just it feels like a regular Galaxy, to be honest. More people go cybernetics. That's about it. I don't think any other build is significantly stronger.
Okay, just because of the Infiltrator Claw for Aurelia, you're saying, or?
Well, I just think the spatula is just more flexible on cyber stuff.
Fair enough.
I don't know.
Yeah. There's a few dominant strategies. Socks is right. Most people try to play cybers because they're very stable. You can kind of like build the Infiltrator talent onto Aurelia, and it's really effective. I've seen people immediately try to commit to Blade Masters of some kind because, you know, getting the Blade Master spatula on like Zed, for example, means that you don't actually have to level nearly as much and you can reroll a lot earlier because you have 6 Blade Master quicker. I've seen people play Battlecast and like really emphasize the fact that they get 4 Battlecasts early to win streak. And so I think the strategies are kind of like developing still. It's like a day and a half of the patch. I honestly think that like it might be just worth holding the spat and like and if you lose streak early, right, because you're determined, just try to go for a force of nature. So it's kind of like what Sox is saying. It feels kind of standard with a couple of twists where like some comps might move up a little bit because you have access.
Yeah. All right. It's I'm hoping I hit it pretty soon. Moving on. Items. Titans Resolve getting a little bit an interesting change really, where now you pop off at 25 sacks instead of 50. I was watching Mort's rundown of 10.17, and he raised a great point that a lot of times most champions in the game don't end up hitting 50 stacks. It's really only the mech. So I like that now more champions can get that max stack bonus right from this. So that'll be neat to see developed. Hand of Justice getting a little bit of a nerf, but that kind of brings it in line with other things. That seems fine.
For the Titans Resolve, I know there's a discussion in the Lobby 2 Discord. I mean, I'm personally, I think the Hand of Titans Resolve is actually a buff to the mech. I'm on that board of that train. I know that Mordog disagrees. He thinks it's a big nerf to the mech. I don't know. I mean, I play a lot of Bane Bros. As a Master Yi player, I just cannot kill the mech anymore. It's impossible. Every time they have a Titans Resolve, it does way too much damage, and it's just unkillable. So,
interesting.
I don't know.
Do you feel like that's kind of an unfavored matchup for Slash or Bang / Bros? Anyway,
are we changing
I don't know.
I remember
it was officially Slash Bros for OCNA finals, but the community will do. The community will do.
I remember Fluffy asked me, was it Fluffy? It was Gummy. It was Gummy. He asked me, after I make it to Worlds, am I going to call it Bane Bros or Slash Bros? He asked me that question. And I said, well, I'm not a pivoter, right? So I'm not a little bitch. That means I'm going to keep calling it Bane Bros. So,
I can't tell you what.
Most importantly, Socks. If you're Master Yi, who's Yasuo for you? And
who's Yasuo?
Who's part of your crew? Who's part of your crew?
Maybe we can get back to this. I haven't thought about it. This is my Bane circle. Right. I don't know.
We've got a question and answer section.
Triangle. Although a circle, I guess, is a lot more.
Anyways, my point is, I actually do believe this Titans Resolve buffs the mech.
All right.
So I don't know. It feels mech is a lot stronger than before.
Interesting. Okay. I suppose, again, because you pop off at lower stacks, it makes a lot more sense. Cool. Yes. All right. Sniper damage bonus nerfed a tiny bit. I don't think this really makes a big difference. You guys?
No, not really. Like a lot of these were like very minor, like the 5 damage, 5 armor, 5 MR, very, very small.
Right. That's the thing. I think we can kind of glaze through these patch notes because there wasn't a huge amount. Anything as far as the champion changes stand out to you, Socks? that you want to mention?
I mean, obviously, I mean, the one that hurts me the most is the mastery changes.
Yeah.
I mean,
It didn't ship.
just
Right?
by playing.
It didn't ship.
It's
I
5
thought it
AD.
didn't ship.
No, the Master E3 star didn't ship, but the Master E2 star did ship. I was thinking that maybe like the Riven buff will counteract it. But nah, I mean, you can definitely feel it. In one of my final games, my Master E was like 2 HP away from killing Janna and winning the game on the spot. Janna ends up living with like 2 HP. Those situations happen way more for me now. So I don't know. It feels like a big nerf.
Okay. Mort's in chat saying only the Yi 1 and 2 changes shipped, the 3 didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Just to officially
Glad to get
clarify
that
that one.
clarified.
Yeah.
I saw people playing a lot of Riven Storks to try and experiment with it. It seems very volatile, so I don't know if it's back. I think it's still just like Nico frontline and then just wait for Janna 2 at that point.
The usual. Yeah. All right. Does Gangplank, I was kind of curious about this one, because Gangplank got a little bit of a nerf. It's not huge. Do you feel like he's in a good place now where he's still usable, but he's not, super OP, but he was not super under OP?
It's like what Moore said. Gangplank has a magical number, right? So basically, every 2-star unit in the game pretty much has around about like 900-ish HP, 900 to 1,000 HP. If Gangplank 2 with like 1 AP item can one-shot those units, then Gangplank is too OP. If he can't one-shot those units, then Gangplank is usually not OP at all. His damage will get healed by Soraka. So I think Gangplank right now, I think he still meets that magical number. So I think he's still on the OP side, but I'm not 100% sure.
That's interesting litmus that you described with Gangplank. That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We'll see what happens. There's I suppose there'll be one more patch yet for them to move things around a little bit, but
that's right. Before World Championships.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. That'll be interesting. Hopefully it's not a big patch because again, I think the game is in a really good spot right now. So it would be very unfortunate if the game changed significantly right before Worlds. I don't think they would do that. But I would hope that the patch is approached with the intention to not do that, which I'm sure it will be. But yeah, I think that's about it for the patch notes, unless anyone has anything else to kind of mention with that. I'll say one thing really quick. Happy to see Blitzcrank get tankier. It always felt a little bit odd to me that he wasn't like as tanky feeling as some of the other brawlers when he is in fact made of metal. So I'm glad to see that go a little bit up. It's a lore buff, and I like lore buffs. It's fine. Makes sense. Let's move on to tournament results. And we know one. Let's take a look at the Teamfight Tactics Galaxies OCE NA Finals presented by Juked. I said that phrase about 1 billion times this weekend. I never messed it up once, I don't think. Maybe I did. But we have our results right there. Obo from the OCE region ended up winning 2 in a row at the end to make it all the way through. Meanwhile, our own guest MismatchedSocks, 2s to the max to make it into second place and get that spot at the Galaxies Global Championships as well. So, yeah, interesting results with that. I continue to be a little bit surprised to see Polt struggle in a tournament environment from time to time. He has his up days and his down days. This was unfortunately a bit of a down one. But what do you think about these results overall, Socks? Obviously, you ended up taking second with all the seconds, made it to the next stage, which is great. But any surprises, any commentary on the final standings with that one?
No, I mean, I'm obviously very, very happy with my results.
Right.
Super happy to be representing NA. It's a little unfortunate that like I don't have an NA friend to bring along, right? It's a little bit lonely. But I mean, what can you do sometimes? I'm super happy with the results. I will say that the tournament was really, really stressful to play. Like, no matter how many times I thought this is it, this is my chance to win, it just never happened. I remember game 3, I was thinking, okay, the tournament's over. I'm gonna win. And then it just didn't happen. And then game 4, I'm like, holy shit, I hit everything. This is it. I'm high rolling so hard, and it didn't happen. And then game 5, I'm just like, I need to win this in order to bring my fellow NA partner with me, Contel. And then it just didn't happen, and it was just so frustrating. The tournament format was really exciting, but from a player perspective, it was just really, really frustrating. And
well, that's the thing. Like, Oh, go
I
ahead.
think that's part of the hype, though.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like from the viewership side and the casting side, like having a player need to get first to win the tournament provided, I think, like the most excitement I've ever felt and seen in like a finals, like a top 8. So that was great. But it does feel a little bit weird to look at that scoreboard at the end of the day and see you at 40 points and Obo at 30 points and see him in first. And like no shade towards Obo at all. Like he played great, and I'm actually really happy that OCE got a representative through to the global championships. But I feel like this was an exciting format, but we're not quite there yet. There's got to be like a format out there that satisfies kind of like all angles. And after looking back over the course of the year, and we can maybe move on with the slides of some of the other tournaments and talk about those. But after looking back over the year, I really like the concept of what Mortdog did in the Top 4 Madness tournament, where you can win via first place, but you can also win through consistent results over enough games. And I think like that style of determining a victor is hype, but also fair. I hate to use the word fair because the word fair and unfair are used so poorly, I think, in a lot of situations. But it seems appropriate. We'll put it that way. But moving on a little bit.
Though, if you go back,
Yeah.
or just go back on the slide, I think right after the tournament, my friends and I were talking about it. For this specific case, I feel like, I think Obo definitely deserves to qualify, but after the tournament ends, I think between the top 1 and 2, we should just take whoever has the higher score, and that person should go as maybe first seed, and the other person should go as second seed. I think that personally makes a lot more sense to me. While the hype is capped, and then I feel like a more fair system. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up was I heard that for some regions, there was only 1 slot. So they only have 1 slot for the World Qualifiers, and their format is identical to this, where their format is you have to score 18 points and then score a first place. In that format, I would unfortunately not make it, so that would feel pretty bad as well. Those are the 2 flaws I have with this system. But overall, I think it was really, really good.
All right. Any comments on that, Frodan?
Yeah, it just really sucks to be Cottontail. Like, geez, it's so like he was really close a few games. If Socks had won like earlier, Cottontail would have gotten through. It was pretty dramatic. It was fun watching it. I only got to catch the tail end because I was busy. But overall, I like it a lot. And like there were some really interesting moments with like khroen. I heard his game was really sick when he was able to clutch it out. So overall, I'm pretty happy with it, and like I think that format wise, it shouldn't just be like 2 players per each region playing. It should really be like a large field. Like I think every region should be sending like 8 players. I think that's like a much more exciting tournament to think about. But like I understand why they're doing it at the very beginning this way, because they want to start small and they don't want to like make it too hard to follow all these players.
Right. And like as we have these discussions about tournament formats too, I think it's important to keep in mind that again, like TFT is just an esport in its infancy, and so just like every esport in its first year there's going to be a lot of tournament formats that are just like a bit off or really off, and it's just a matter of kind of like experimenting enough to find that sweet spot, right? And props to all the pros that have to play through all of the wacky formats throughout the first year or two of an esports existence, because it does normalize it in the end. We can move on and talk about some of the other stuff with this. This is the EU.
Maybe one more comment I had.
Yeah, go for it.
Just for the tournament thing. I personally found it super, super good. I actually found it so exciting that I went back to watch like people's VODs and their reactions. I remember like in Contel game 3, 4, and 5, it was like, go Socks! I'm Socks' biggest fan. It was really, really exciting. In the end, he didn't make it, but like to have those moments feel really cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I like it. Like
there's more potential with this kind of format, and I think that it's good to explore more of that stuff.
Yeah, the final day of the OCENA finals was really impactful to me because I've always loved TFT and like watching it, obviously, but that was a level of hype where I'm like, all right, yes, TFT is an awesome spectator experience, and it should only get better from here on out. That was a pretty cool moment for me to kind of see all that go down. But let's take a look at the EU results real quick. So EU had 3 people going through because they brought in players from 3 different regions in that part of the world. Double 61, Lev D. Trotsky, and Voltairix. Socks, and I were talking a little bit about this before the show started, and you were saying that like these three players are generally accepted as some of the best in EU. So this didn't really seem like much of an upset to see these three players.
No, these three are not upsets at all. These three people are insane. The only person who you would argue deserves to make it 100% is DoA, right? And he ended up 4th in the tournament. So like, this like top 4, not a surprise whatsoever. I am actually kind of shaking to fight some of these guys because I mean they're considered really good players.
Shaking. Wow. A lot of
Maybe
respect.
Salvi's the other one. I'm very sad didn't make it through. So
I'm really surprised that
DoA got wrecked in the early rounds.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead, DoA.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I was surprised to see DoA not make it through too. He was one of the people I kind of had pegged for like definitely getting one of those top 3 spots. But I'm glad to see Lev D get through. He's a player that's really come up this year as well and made a name for himself. So it's neat to see him get all the way to the global championships. Talking about China. So China had, or is currently, I believe, having their tournament right now. I don't believe it's over quite yet. Is it? I think the last day is today.
No. Yeah. It's 5 days, I think, right?
Okay.
No, so they've only had their first 2 days, and their format is really cool. I don't know if you know the Chinese format. It's not detailed in this Reddit post.
Yeah, I haven't. I have like VODs and stuff. I looked at the format on one of the VODs, but I can't remember it.
The format is very cool for the Chinese qualifiers. Okay, so there's 16 people. They're divided into 2 groups of 8. The first group play off. The top 2 people qualify. The bottom people drop out. Bottom 2 people drop out, and places 3 through 7 participate in a losers bracket.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a neat way of doing it.
So first to qualify from Group A, first to qualify from Group B, and then 3 through 6 play in a losers bracket, and then top 4 qualify from the losers bracket. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's another way to just like give players more chances if they place poorly, but also reward the ones that are placing really high in lobbies, which is really neat.
I think it's really cool because well, the hardest part about TFT is getting that top 4. And sometimes you're doomed to get a 7th, but if you can squeeze out like a 5th or a 6th, in this format, you would actually have a second chance. I would say in almost every other format, you would just get disqualified, right? So that's why this is really cool.
Yeah, Apex Legends ran something like this. They basically, for their big tournament, they had, it's a battle royale format, which is very similar to what TFT is. TFT is a BR. They basically took the top 30 teams and the bottom 30 teams, I think because it's in that game. And the top 30 would move on the winners and play another lobby of 30 teams or whatnot. And then the bottom teams would face each other and then systematically just keep removing half. And so that's another way that basically that they've approached it, which is adopting a similar situation. But what really sucks is that, sometimes in TFT, if you do get like 6 and 6 or 7 and 7th, there is like a chance for you to still come back. But double elimination means just 2 really bad games, and sometimes it's doomed. So
no, it's not double elimination. No, the first group plays.
I'm saying in Apex Legends, if they were to copy that format where it was just like top half, bottom half type thing, because we did play around with those kinds of concepts for Twitch Rivals, and like having played a couple of play tests of it, it just like didn't feel good at all. So that's why we never really did something like that.
Well, it almost feels a little bit similar to what was done with Twitch Rivals TFT, where like you would move up and down lobbies depending on your results with whatever game you played. And that was kind of a neat format. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, very much so. And I like seeing other formats like that. It's pretty interesting.
I think one thing that I would, and the thing is like some people are saying, oh, well, why are the formats so different between all the regions and all that kind of stuff? The pricing is so different between all the regions as well. I think while there needs to be certain elements of standardization that, will come out over time, I actually kind of like it that different regions have their different formats, right? Because that in part kind of produces pros that think about the game in different ways. Because the formats are going to be different. But I also like that an esport holds on to its autonomy in different regions as well, as far as like how they run their tournaments, because what works for NA may not work for Korea, may not work for EU, So I'm glad that the effort isn't to just hyper standardize everything across the whole world immediately. I like that Riot's kind of like letting the different regions do their own thing and kind of seeing what happens. And obviously we see some silly stuff from time to time, like 10 eggs is like the meme in chat now, right? But like deservedly so. But it's cool to have that autonomy, you know, maybe not that much, but that's what I'm saying. Like some things like having prizing for your tournament is probably great. Whereas
I would argue
format can be different. That's fine.
The bigger meme than 10x that no one talks about is the Chinese qualifiers, right? I brought it up to DoA a little bit before the stream, but it's absolutely unacceptable. They eliminated from 10,000 people down to 16 in the matter of 3 days. I don't know how many games. I wouldn't imagine it's more than 10. So like in 10 games or so, they limited 99.9% of the players. So you can imagine all the top rank 1 and 2 challengers got eliminated. So
well, there's something like I forget if it's like 15 or if it's like 30 different servers in China. Like there's just there's like a huge number of players. So on the one hand, you've got this like gargantuan problem of how in the world do you do this fairly? But like TFT is definitely not a game where you can decide who the best player is in best of ones. Like it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, so I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I think like as a fundamental principle, I kind of agree. Like giving regional autonomy is like really nice. If you just need like an example of it, it's really interesting to see LEC develop as an esports product different from LCS.
Yeah, which has been really good for them too.
Yeah, as a good thing to give it that regional unique identity. The downside is literally what's happening in front of us, which is every region has its own different problems and almost its own controversy. Like
naturally,
like the Europe qualifiers, like the day 1 to day 2 process was kind of catastrophic. Like the tiebreaker drama and like how admins were counting tiebreakers with strength of schedule, and then people pointing out the tiebreaker was wrong, but then the admins are saying like, no, it's actually right, but we're going to replay the games tomorrow. The fact that 10.17, the current patch, dropped in the middle of the LATAM qualifiers yesterday night, and they had to just say, hey, we're not going to play any more games tonight because the patch just dropped early, and we're really sorry because some people are like, my Titans resolve on my units changed like mid game, or like basically they didn't know. This kind of stuff is a really easy way to sabotage all the hard work and effort that goes into it. I think everyone knows how much like Mordog and Green Teej and everybody else puts effort, Whitrock and all of them, into TFT, and it just feels so sad to see them have to like face the music for something like this, which is really not even truly their fault, but like it's just a really sad thing to see like all this like regional separation has actually caused chaos within the competitive scene and almost kind of turned everything into an embarrassment.
So
such a tragedy.
This is a symptom of something that has existed in esports since time began, in developer run things where no matter what the company is, whether it's Riot or Blizzard or any other company trying to run an esport, there has perpetually always been a disconnect between the development team and the esports team, and in terms of communication. And I don't know why that is, but it is just it's always been there. And this is unfortunately just kind of yet another one of the instances of the esports team and the development team, for whatever reason, some sort of miscommunication, not being on the same page. So if anything, I think I would encourage developers out there to make sure that your esports team and your development teams are on the same page, because things like this has happened for 10 plus years, and it will continue to happen until more of a priority is put on that. Yeah. And some things will just happen. Sometimes, mistakes are made and accidents happen. That's unavoidable. Yeah. But I think that would really help to prioritize that communication,
I work on a team that puts out, a dozen or so broadcasts on average every few weeks for Twitch Rivals, right? We put out so much content, we put out so many tournaments, and we make a ton of mistakes. Mistakes are always going to happen. So, like, I sympathize with tournament organizers, especially because Riot's empowering, like, local, regional organizers to put things together. And so, errors always happen. We're all humans. That's totally fine. But, like, the unforced errors is what's really like, oh, no, like, I can't believe this is actually happening. And like basic communication like that, though, is exactly. So, a lot of lessons learned, and hopefully, they've already said there's going to be a set 4 championship, which is good news. And so, next time around, like, let's get everything up and improve.
Hey, they have a pass. In my opinion, they've got a pass for a lot of things, because esport, like first year of an esport, I will give everybody involved in esport a pass for its first year for a lot of things. Next year, gloves come off, though. Just saying it now.
Anyways, thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
There you go.
We can
Yeah,
move
that's
on
right.
now if you want.
So let's see. What is there anything else we need to cover for the tournaments, things like that at the moment? We're right about time to move things on. More Talks is Frodan is TED of TED Talks. Is there an actual TED? I don't think so.
I thought I did this already. The tournament. Oh, tournament players.
Tournament players.
I actually watched. I think I saw Khroen's list last week. I think he mentioned that he didn't put me on the top 10. I hope he changes his mind now, huh?
I thought he did.
Wow.
Did he not?
He didn't. He
did
mentioned
not.
that I'm a ladder player, and
How
you know,
could he not do that?
Right.
and you know, in hindsight, I think he's right.
He's right.
No, the thing is that like I've been approaching tournaments differently than I have in the past. I mean, if you even look at the tournament for the Cloud9 tournament, I was dead last. So I mean, it's very evident.
Tournament Socks is unleashed at this point.
Yeah, I mean, okay, actually, something that I have, I've only recently made the realization myself is why tournament play is so different from ladder play, right? So like what I realized is like on ladder play, if you average like a 3.5 or like a 3.4, you'll climb. So that means like in a game, you can either choose to first or eighth, or you can say you can guarantee a fourth place. You always take the fourth place guarantee, right?
Sure.
And in a tournament, that's not the case. So we have to go into ladder thinking that you can't be happy with a fourth. You have to be happy with a second or like a first. And that made me made that realization why tournament play is so much different. So like an example I'll use is that last week I went from maybe 1,500 LP all the way down to 1,000 LP on both accounts, right? Would you say that I have had like a struggling tournament prep, or would you say that's a good tournament prep?
Depends on what you're practicing.
I would say that would indicate that you're struggling because look on the
it would, right?
You understand the patch.
But so I mean, obviously I force Bane Bros every game, so that's part of the reason why I lost a bunch of LP. But besides that, there was a few games where on my main account, like I straight up saying on my main account, literally on Twitch on my main account, I tried something new. So there's a new build that came up called Bangry Birds, where it's just Bane Bros, identical to Bane Bros, but you put Static Shiv on Xayah, and Static Shiv, if you know the comp, one item Static Shiv Xayah 2 does more damage than a Master E2 with 2 items. So that's a fact that probably people don't know about. And the thing is that like you wouldn't actually think of that without losing LP. Like you have to lose LP to get to that point, right? There's no way you can gain LP and learn this new comp. Which is what I like made the realizations. Every time when I was holding rank 1 and rank 2, I didn't make any new discoveries. I just took what I knew, practiced them in a way that I always guarantee myself to get a top 4. So this way I don't lose LP. And then when I high roll, I would get like a first or a second. Instead, I had a new mentality of, you know what? Like, it doesn't really matter what my LP is that like, for the tournament format, if this situation would come up, how can I play the situation better next time? I don't care about getting a top 4. I care about like in this tournament, how can I get a higher placement?
Right.
And yeah, so khroen was right. I mean, I was never a tournament player. I was always a ladder player. But now I'm rank 50 and like 70 on the ladder. So now I'm a tournament player.
Right.
You
sacrifice enough LP to gain the tournament strength.
Huh?
No, you really overrated.
That's why there's such thing as like a GM buff, right? Like people like right before the tournament fall to GM, and then they suddenly win all like the major tournaments. How can that be the case? It's because like while they're falling and losing elo, they have to be like trying something new. Otherwise, they wouldn't actually lose elo. And in the process of trying something new, you would discover something that's actually OP. Yeah.
No, it's totally true.
That's
yeah,
that's the PIBA experience in a nutshell, isn't it? Didn't you go like top 10 challenger all the way down to like 400 master LP? Like he swings like crazy.
Oh, maybe
that's
not.
A lot of learning.
Maybe not as dramatic as PIBA, okay? Maybe that's a little bit too dramatic.
My ladder results since 3.5 started means that I have probably learned more than anyone in TFT in the entire world. I'm just put that out there. I'm very knowledgeable now for sure.
But I mean, that's how things are. That's how discoveries are made, though, right? Like,
no, it is true. Yeah, in all seriousness.
Really
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I think if you talk to a lot of pros in a lot of other games, they'll say the same thing. Where like, yeah, if the ladder is your practice environment, you're gonna have to give up results in order to innovate. You know, so for sure.
Yes.
And then
so we've stalled long enough.
You've had enough time to think about this.
And then the other thing, wait, hold on, I was talking about the other thing that like made me a tournament player was in the process of practicing Bane Bros every game, which I don't feel like they're very strong. I feel like they're very like B-tier comp right now. But Bane Bros stereotypically have a really bad early game, right? And by forcing this comp 20 out of 20 games, I actually became an early game god. Because I'm playing like it's the worst early game composition, and I'm able to actually win streak sometimes with it. So like basically I never got the luxury of like playing. I always had to like find creative ways to play early game, and that part of it made me like an insane tournament player. Anyways, for the top 10 tournament players, I really haven't thought about it, but like
now's the time.
I mean, I want to put myself on top of everything. I actually do believe I am the best tournament player.
That's fine.
Wow! All this humble preface.
No, it is. It is. I mean, it's not even a humble brag. I'm just. It's like an ego. It's an ego talking. I top 4'd every single game for the NA qualifiers against the best 20. Against the 24 best players on like NA and OC server. I top 4'd 10 games straight. I mean, that's not even. Huh? No, top 2 I only did 5 games or 4 games straight, or 6 games straight. 5 games or 6 games straight. But top 4 I 10 games straight. I didn't bottom 4 a single time in the NA qualifier tournament. So I do believe I should be number 1.
That is insane. I'm glad we have the future.
It was a very
champion. I feel like Frodan is patronizing me, but I'll let it slide. I'll let it slide.
No, it was great just because it seemed like you were really humble and you're like, oh yeah, like I learned all these lessons and all this stuff, and then just like, yeah, I'm number 1. That's not even.
Yeah.
Who's number 2 then?
I think number 2. I think it has to go to either Milk or khroen.
Okay.
I mean, it's very obvious. Probably slightly towards Milk because he's been slightly more dominant in the past.
Okay.
But a key thing about the tournaments is that you have to play. In my opinion, the best way to prep for tournament is to learn one comp really, really well, because almost every single tournament is about finishing first or like finishing top 2. If you want to finish top 2 or finish first, you have to know your comps super, super well, and that's something that Milk and khroen does consistently well every single time. Milk, maybe Aegon there as well. So like Milk, khroen, Aegon, something like that, because they literally would only practice one comp. And that's what you need to do in tournaments. You don't want to be flexible. That's why people like Grandma Say always struggle, because while they know every single comp in the game, they just can't guarantee a first place when they need to, or like they can't guarantee like that like top 2 finish when they need to. They'll always be in the middle of the pack.
Okay, fair enough. What about all right, I don't want to put any names in your head here. I have to let you decide who's the next one. I was going to ask about somebody, but like, no, it has to come from Sox's heart.
I think the khroen one is worth discussing.
That's what I was going to bring up, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people consider him a really good tournament player, but the thing about khroen is it's hard to remember him winning anything. So like the people I put
a number of times.
Yeah, he's gone close, but people don't really remember who's third place in the tournament. Like who finished like 3rd and 4th in the NA qualifiers. I can't even tell you. Or like 5th and 6th.
Wow.
It's hard to remember, right?
Forgotten into history.
Basically, no, I mean this was what tournament players actually mean. You can't consider yourself a tournament player. You can't consider yourself like a top 4 tournament player. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. That's what tournaments are about. Like, either you make it out or you don't, right? Either you make it to the NA qualifiers or you don't. Either you get the prize or you don't. You can't just say I finished 5th and I got like close to prizing. That doesn't count.
Dang.
I mean, tournament players tournaments are insanely different from ladder, right? They're way different.
Yes, they are. They are 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, khroen definitely deserves to be on this list. I'm not sure because I'm going based off of people who I remember win tournaments, right? So.
Sure.
I would think Robin and Cottontail deserves to be on this list for sure, though. Both of them have proven over and over in the Team Liquid tournament, as well in the C9 tournament, to do really well.
Yes, I agree.
So
All right,
probably
we're-
Robin,
Really impressed.
Robin
Yeah.
and Cottontail respectively.
Okay, Robin Songs with Z at 5th, and then Cottontail at 6th.
Yeah.
All right.
The people I would like think about is like GBA, who's really good. There's people like GBA who's really good. There's people who are like Polt who are really good, but they've never really had results.
Right.
So let me think who else. Who else am I scared of in tournaments? I personally think Solus is insanely good in tournaments. Actually, I would probably move him higher than Aegon.
Ooh.
Didn't GVA win that tournament we casted last year, Frodan? Set
The
2?
Fandom Legends tournament?
Yeah.
Yeah, So I actually
didn't
agree with what Sox is saying, but the reason why I think GV8 did well in that environment is because that was a meta that favored his skill set. And I think that like part of being a tournament player, being good at TFT is like being able to like adjust your play style. You can't be stubborn with it. You can't only one trick. Sometimes it calls to be like the situation calls for being a one trick, and sometimes it calls for being flexible, and you have to be able to do both. And I think like a lot of times people like obsess over the idea of being flexible and like lose sight of like what it means to be a master at a game like TFT, and you have to be able to be flexible at all kinds of.
All right. Fair enough.
Solus,
But he's great. Like GVA is like one of my favorite players to watch.
I mean, GV is great.
Yeah.
GV is great, but unfortunately, I just don't think he is. There's something about GBA where he can top 4 every game, but that's just not what you need in a tournament, right? You can literally go 4-4-4-4, even 3-3-3-3, and you just won't make it out. I mean, that's just the reality. Like, you can even go like you can go like almost 2-2-2-2, and you will not make it out. Like that's
it's possible.
That almost happened to you, yeah.
Yeah. If I went 2-2-2-2-8, I don't make it out. I mean, that's just what consistency is there? Like, the tournament doesn't value consistency at all. So, like, I think GVA will forever struggle in tournaments. That's my
Interesting. I
it
mean,
feels
that's
bad.
kind of what khroen and GV8 do, right? They like constantly play like a really good top 4, so they advance to the final 8. But then it's kind of like what you said, they don't win the tournament because they're always in that final 8 players. But like, can they actually like win it all when it's all?
And it feels really bad too. Like, do I want to be a Bane Bros one trick? Do I want to be known as a person who can only play one comp? Absolutely not. Does being a Bane Bro one trick, or does being a one trick help you win tournaments? Absolutely. Being a one trick helped me demolish the NA tournament scene, because anytime I wanted to play Blade Masters, I gotta play it. No one contests me. Arguably one of the stronger comps to get top 4, get like top 2 or top 1. So I mean, it just feels really bad, honestly. That's what it takes to be a tournament player. It is what it is.
And sometimes one of the things in tournaments too is that if there's a comp that's super strong but only supports one player in the lobby, then like whoever kind of becomes that designated player of that comp can have really good results because people just won't contest them. So that's definitely a situation where one tricking will help a lot. Yeah,
and bullying people out of it, and like actually typing me Bane Bros helps immensely in tournaments. So I can't even exaggerate that. It's not a meme. It's actually a real thing.
I believe
we know from the mech days. We very much know.
Yeah.
The Blade shows me.
I mean, I really think that maybe one day the tournament scene will be fixed. It can't be like this. You can't have such a big advantage.
Why not?
Because, I mean, do we consider people who are good at tournaments the best players, or people who are good at ladder the best players? I tend to think
maybe we should go ahead.
I tend to think that like people who are ladders are the best players in the world. I mean, I can hit rank 1 on command, like probably maybe not rank 1, but at least top 5 on command. But like, for me to play in a tournament, I literally have to drop out of top 50 in order to to excel at a tournament. It just shows you how flawed tournaments are compared to actual TFT skill.
I think you need to like make a t-shirt now that just has like your face or logo or something that just says I can hit rank 1 on command. I think that needs to just be the motto from now on for MismatchedSocks.
It's partial ego, but I've done it in the past. So Okay, let's switch to,
I'm not typing this, by the way.
This is a really interesting discussion, and I would love to like debate Socks and challenge, not necessarily because I disagree with him, but because I feel like people don't represent the other side well enough, which is mastery over one thing. Coming from like a background that plays like a lot of like card games or like fighting games, which is basically like encouraging you to master one thing as opposed to like be good at like 100. So anyway,
sure.
Go on.
No, but I'm curious. I'm curious though, like, the people who consistently win tournaments are not the people on top of the ladder, right? I mean, that part we kind of somewhat agree.
Yes.
Okay, but like, how can that be the case, right? Is it just pure unluckiness? I don't know.
Well, we've had like
Sometimes.
6 TFT tournaments as well, so
That's true.
I mean, we don't have a lot of data sample size to work with, but I do agree that trend is very interesting to look at, right?
Yeah.
All right, 3 more spots. Who do you got next?
Okay, I haven't really thought about it. Sorry, I was thinking about. Let me think. Yeah,
I'm laughing because I'm reading chat right now.
Probably khroen, since obviously he's a really good player.
Okay.
Yes. Milk is pushing Saint Vicious onto you, Socks. He's
Saint Vicious is really good. Saint Vicious is really
say, yeah.
Yeah,
the tournament player. Recently, he's been really good in tournaments.
Saint Vicious for sure. I definitely would not feel comfortable putting Soji on there.
Of course. He's not making it again.
He's not even.
I mean, like,
always a bridesmaid, never the
khroen's
top
really good too. khroen's really good. I mean, if you want to talk about the biggest jump between ladder and tournament, if you had to pick the person who improves the most between ladder and tournament, and that person would be on this list, I mean, I would definitely 1,000% pick Becca.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
highest earning player in TFT history.
She wins a ton of tournament games. Like she's a really interesting player to watch in tournaments actually, because she like 1s and 2s a lot, but she also 7s and 8s a lot. It's really interesting. But yeah, she has won a lot of tournament games.
No, the thing is that like
interesting point.
In tournaments, she literally goes toe to toe with all the best players, like toe to toe every single time. But on the ladder, she does not. So I mean, like the jump is immense, right? I mean, if that was most improved tournament player.
Maybe it's Twitch chat holding her back when she tries the ladder while streaming. That's what it is, maybe.
Right.
Anyways, I think it has to be. I think it has to be khroen.
khroen? Okay. All right.
What? No takebacks, these Socks. Wow.
No. I said it was most improved. I was thinking about it from another avenue. Look, we can have a most improved tournament list. Becca can be number 1 on that list. Okay, so.
Okay.
All right. Most improved. We'll come up with that list next time. All right. Interesting. Is there anyone you'd want to? Oh, never mind. I guess we're moving on to questions.
Wait.
So take some questions from Twitter first of all. I believe. First question is: besides EU, what other regions or players have you been watching and have stood out, if any? From Ostian.
Yeah, Ostian. I have. I've been watching pretty much a little bit of all the regions actually. I mean, I don't know them, so no one's really stood out. But like for example, I watched the LA, the Latin America qualifiers. Some guy played 6 chrono, 3 cybers. That was like a comp that was like discovered on Reddit. And it was actually really, really strong. He got third with 6 chrono, 3 cybers. You listen to that comp, you're like, how in the fucking world, right?
Yeah.
Apparently it's a thing. And then I watched China. I was expecting China's competition to be insanely high, but I mean, China's level of competition is very, very low. I've seen a little bit of Korean players. I haven't watched too much of it, so I don't know. And then I've seen, I think that's it. So I haven't really seen anyone players that really stood out, but it's really hard to tell in such a short span. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll move on to the next one then. In all the tournaments you've played, which format do you think balances risk and consistency the most from trade chains?
That's a hard question to answer because I don't even know what risk and or consistent even means. Both of them are pretty hard to define. But so I'll just answer something off topic, which is in terms of fun and like enjoyment, I think this tournament was by far the most fun and enjoyable for all the participants.
So, the Oceania finals, you said?
Yeah, the Oceania final.
Oh. Interesting. All right. Cool. So are there any, so if you could design a tournament format, would you just use the one from the OCNA finals, or would you tweak it at all?
I would definitely tweak it. I haven't really thought about how I would tweak it, but I like the idea of finishing on a first. I don't like so much the idea of having a point threshold where if you get past this point threshold, then you just auto win. I don't like that as much. I like the finishing on a first idea. But
so how do you decide when a first becomes the win then if you don't have a point threshold?
No, sorry. I like the initial point threshold. I don't like having like a fifth. It's like you need 16 points to qualify to go to get to the first stage, and then I don't like having the second point threshold. Like say you get 50 points and you automatically end the tournament once you get 50 points, regardless.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I like the current hype of the tournament. There isn't too much I would change. I would actually have to think about it more, but I mean, at the end of the day, I would just want more games. So, like instead of 16 points, maybe like 20 points would be the threshold, and then you get a first. So,
all right, interesting. So just kind of extend it before people can start taking first. I see. You'd have situations in that case, I think, where like a lot of players would be hitting that threshold at the same time. Perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps. Or maybe if we change the point scale a little bit. Not sure.
Yeah.
Right now, getting a first is already rewarded so dramatically. I don't think it needs to be rewarded more dramatically.
Because the points are really weighted towards 1 and 2 on day 2 of the OCNA finals anyway, where there was like a drop off. It was like 10, 8, and then like 6 and down, which is kind of interesting.
I agree.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Well, I think that about does it for the show. So looking forward.
We have one question. We have one
go
question
ahead.
that Sock still hasn't answered, which is
what's that?
Who is part of your Bang Bros triangle?
Oh, who's part of my Bang Bros triangle?
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Thanks for remembering that, Frodan.
Let me think. I don't know. I haven't thought about it.
You gotta think about it now.
Man, if I was like, which Bang Bro would I even be, man? It's hard to say.
Someday this conversation is going to be taken out of context.
You're the chosen one.
Huh? No, but the thing is that, like, I mean, being Master E is just not that enjoyable, I would say. I feel like being Master E is okay. Like, imagine being Yasuo, you just loaf around and you still make it part of the Bang Bro circle. Like, no one will put items on you, you have no responsibilities, and you're just in there. Like, wouldn't that feel nice?
I guess so.
I like chat's suggestion, Wangalang for the carousel mechanics.
Oh yeah, he has been helping me. He's Wangalang's my real life friend. He's a beast. Let me think.
Great.
I have to be like.
He'd be in your triangle then?
Bang Bro circle.
Well, we just need a triangle. If you want to expand it to a circle at some point, that's up to you. But we
okay, let me think. Okay, let me just pick people from the TFT community. Then it'll probably be me, as I want to be Yasuo. So maybe Zed. I'll be Zed. So I'll have my spotlight every now and then. But for the most part, someone else does the hard work. And then the person who does all the hard work, I guess Soju can be Yasuo, because like in a tournament, Soju does really nothing, but he's part of the circle, you know. He's just there.
You need him there.
Oh
he's there for the synergy.
Oh my!
I mean, you can't have that.
No.
You can't have it without Soju.
This is a real human being you're talking about. You realize?
I know, but
someone clip that and send it to Soju.
I think he's probably in chat. Who knows?
You can't have the Bang Bros without Soju, but at the same time, he really doesn't add all that much. You know, he really doesn't all that much.
Oh my God.
And then Master E. Oh God, who's Master E? Let me think. Maybe Mortog. I mean, he actually does all the hard work. He's actually carrying the team.
We depend on him.
He's surprisingly a banger. Don't tell him said that, but he's surprisingly kind of a Smurf. So
maybe. All right. He does all the real swinging. Perfect. Heavy lifting. I like it. Okay. That was a very satisfying answer to that question.
Thank you, Socks.
Wonderful. And on that note, it's probably time to end the show before it derails any further. But thanks for coming on, MismatchedSocks.
Milk just said the funniest thing, Milk just said the funniest thing in chat.
Wait, what?
Milk says, is it
Oh.
Mordog Shen because he tanks all the damage?
Yeah, actually, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
Oh no, we broke socks.
Oh my god, that's really funny. Oh, actually,
Poor guy.
Mordog
Oh.
might be Irelia because he while he's not actually part of the Bane Pro circle, he actually does all the work. Because Irelia is the secret carrier of Bane Bros, so yeah,
Give him the infiltrator talent so he can get in there and be part of the loop.
That's too funny.
The circle expands.
It's too funny.
That's right.
Right, all right.
Oh, I mean,
That was great. Let's end on that.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
bang
yeah.
circle is complete. All
I was
right.
gonna say maybe after this, I'll make a full 1-to-1 mapping. So
There you go. There you go. The little chest hexagons, but put portraits instead.
This sounds good. We need to create like a ranking system like that to create these things. Well, Socks, any parting comments before we end it? General or otherwise, shout outs.
I mean, I hope I can do really well on the global championships. I'm a little bit nervous because, like I said, it's gonna be on a patch day, and you already know I'm gonna go 8th every single game. But maybe I can sneak in a few 7th every now and then. So we'll see.
Best of luck to the patch day tournament. Frodan, what you got? Final
It's been
thoughts?
great. Love having Socks on as a second guest. I know a lot of other TFT personalities and streamers are in the chat. If you want to come on for your second appearance, let us know because apparently we're doing second rounds.
Yeah, my face hurts from laughing at this point. So yeah, this was a good one. Thanks for coming on the show, Mismatched Socks. Looking forward to watching you in the tournament. Now that you are officially a tournament player, you've crossed over, you've bridged the gap, you've joined, you've come to greener pastures, perhaps, depending on how you look at it.
It's the dark side for sure, but yeah.
You've joined the dark side. Either way, thanks for coming on the show. Look forward to watching in the tournament later. Thanks to Frodan for being our guest. Thanks again to GiantSlayer for putting on this show. They do an awesome job. And thanks to you at home for watching and playing and helping build this awesome scene in Teamfight Tactics that we love so much. Until next time, DoA, Frodan, and Mismatched Socks. See you around.